Hey fans, did you know that Dash is the only digital auction platform built specifically for professional sports teams and their fan bases? It is also your place to score your favorite hockey team's most authentic memorabilia and game day experiences. Dash powers the auctions for your favorite AHL, ECHL, SPHL, NAHL, and USHL hockey clubs, plus many more across sports. Get in on the bidding now by texting DASH to 66866 or visit thesendbin.net and click on the word auctions in the upper right corner to find out the latest hockey auctions. Dash, making sports bidding so much easier in the digital age. This episode of the In the Corners podcast is sponsored by Sporfy, the sports video platform that allows you to instantly capture, replay, and share your favorite game highlights, all without having to film. For more information, visit sporfy.com or download the mobile app from the Google Play Store or the App Store.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Farmington, Michigan.
This is the In the Corners emergency mini podcast episode for Saturday, September 5th, 2020. Welcome to the Good Ship In the Corners for episode number 88B. Like I mentioned, we're doing an emergency mini podcast here. There's just too much news in the past week. We couldn't just sit on it. We had to record an episode. So my name's CC Hawkley.
And I'm Sean O'Brien.
Thanks for tuning in with us. All righty. So we discuss recording more often as the offseason ramps up. We were thinking about going to a bi-weekly format instead of a monthly format like we were doing within the corners during the elongated off season that's occurring right now. And there's definitely news and notes worthy of discussion. And, you know, like the Pittsburgh Toronto trade with AHL implications. Sure, that could probably wait until the next episode. But then an AHL vacancy was filled and another AHL vacancy appeared. And, you know, we have to get here and we have to break it down for you ASAP, or at least we like to think we should. So first off, Sean, why are you in Farmington, Michigan?
I mean, how far did you expect me to make it from Plymouth in a week? Besides, there's a nice winery in town here. They do a haunted winery in October. So I figure if I stick around long enough, I'll get to maybe be first in line for that.
Okay. I see you got your, you know, when in Rome, you've got your Detroit jersey on. You got the Michigan license plate on the wall. I mean, yeah, it's you can't go too far, I suppose, if you're already, you know, you're in Plymouth last week and now you're in Farmington. So
yep, I'm just a journeyman.
You are a journeyman. You are quite the vagabond traveler for sure. So anyway, we got a lot to cover, and we're going to make this, like we said, a mini episode. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the Henderson Silver Knights. Vegas went out and replaced Rocky Thompson, who was moving on, taking the assistant job with San Jose a few weeks ago. And they picked up a guy from the WHL, the Spokane Chiefs, in Manny Viveiros. So, Sean, what do you got to say about Mr. Manny?
So, fair warning, I actually have a good amount more of insight into Manny Viveiros than I do the other coaches we've talked about. But I can't go into a whole ton of detail like I would normally want to, and I'll explain why. So Last season, the Spokane Chiefs, with Manny Viveiros as their coach, hired a hockey analytics company to track their games and send them analytics reports in between periods and at the end of games. I know this because I worked for that analytics company, StatsTrack, and I covered a couple of their games when their regular guy was unable to make it. So I've seen a lot of the advanced metrics and reports on their team, but I can't talk about those. However, I did go back and watch a few of the games and took some notes on systems and coaching details, and those I absolutely can share.
Awesome. Well, good. Yeah, I totally get non-disclosure agreements and, you know, privacy matters and things like that, especially when it, you know, comes to your occupation in the world of hockey and everything like that. So that's completely fair. There's bound to be some overlap here and there with an analytics guy like yourself. So let me get his name correct this time, because it's one of those names that could go either way. It's Viveiros. Viveiros. Okay. So Manny Viveiros. So Kelly McCrimmon the general manager of the Vegas Golden Knights, he said that you'll see a lot of Vegas's system in Henderson. Now, obviously, you're going to want to get a guy in there that can kind of at least somewhat assimilate Vegas's system into the AHL level with Henderson. And I think that's going to be a good thing for fans because Vegas plays an exciting brand of hockey. I mean, obviously, they're in the midst of Game 7 as we record this. I believe they started at 7 Eastern. It is now 8:15 as we record this on Friday night. But yeah, Vegas plays an exciting brand of hockey, and that kind of blends a lot with what Viveiros did in Spokane.
Yep, and there were some subtle differences that I picked up on between what you see in Vegas and what he did with the Chiefs. So one of the things that I noticed is he had his defense do a lot of the heavy lifting, driving transition, creating offense, and that's not that surprising. When you have a first-round draft pick and Ty Smith on your team, as well as a lot of talent on the blue line, you let them do what they're good at. And that's what Ty Smith was good at. He was good at taking the puck on end-to-end rushes, setting up offense, driving transition. And that's what Viveiros gave him the freedom to do. Now, Vegas has good defense in their system. Nate Schmidt, outstanding. But you'll probably not see that as much in Henderson, I don't think. Primarily because I don't think that the guys that they are going to have will really fit that skill set.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you're doing a system, I think we talked about it last episode. You got to have the guys if you're going to be running a system that's just go all the time. I think it was, I can't remember if it was Abbott or Appert rather, or
Robleski. Yeah, he had a very skate heavy system.
Right. So yeah, it's a good thing though. I mean, whenever you, again, like I mentioned, whenever you hire a coach, you want to have those aspects similar to the systems that you have in place, which is good because Vegas does have those aspects in their system. But is Henderson really going to have those kinds of defense, that kind of D? I mean, you kind of, you need a little bit of talent. I know Dylan Coglan and Peter, was it Dilibatore? Is that how you pronounce it? Okay, good. I got that one. Dilibatore. So Haig's going to be in Vegas all season. Keen Korzak, he's going to be 20 in January, fresh out of the WHL. He's probably not going to be ready for that kind of workload going from the major juniors game into the professional game, even at the AHL level. There might need to be some adjustments from Viveiros based on the skill set of his blue line.
Yep, and that's kind of what I see too. But the rest of his system definitely seems to fall very much in the, if you squint at it, it looks like Vegas. They played practically the same forecheck. Vegas plays a very wide 1-2-2 forecheck, and Viveiros uses a similar brand of 1-2-2. His isn't as in your face as you see on Vegas some nights, but it's definitely within the system. It's not too big of a departure from what he did, but the tempo, the pace that you saw, the playing fast as a team, that's very much Vegas's brand, and that's very much what he did with the Chiefs. The Chiefs' breakouts, though, stood out as the biggest difference for me from what you saw from Vegas from a tactical standpoint. Vegas on a lot of breakouts will use what you think of as a short support, strong side breakout, where they will flood one half of the ice where the puck is with forwards to basically create a mini advantage in manpower. And they'll use that to get the puck out of the zone, out of their defensive zone. And then once they hit about the red line, they'll look to shoot a pass across the ice to a weak side winger because everyone is drawn into that side more or less, and that usually gives him a clean break into the offensive zone for an entry. That's a big staple of Vegas's breakout system, and it works really well. However, you saw that in Spokane a little bit, but it was definitely not the staple that it was. In Spokane, you saw a lot more end-to-end rushes by defensemen, a lot more using bumpers in neutral zone where a pass comes to a guy in the neutral zone and then he taps it to the side for another wing swinging through with speed. Like, you don't see that a lot in Vegas. And I think that's going to be something that changes. You'll probably see some sort of blend of that in Henderson, where Viveiros is going to bring his own style of breakouts and incorporate some of Vegas's things, just so when his players get called up, they don't look lost and have to unlearn a system. That's the biggest thing about when you're developing guys who are going to get called up, is you don't want them to have to spend 2 to 3 days in the classroom before they can touch the ice, because they don't know what to do.
Right. Well, and I think, with Viveiros, you pull him up on the internet and he's Canadian Austrian. So it's like, that's an interesting, an interesting blend with a name like Manny Viveiros. But I think having that experience, he played a number of years in Austria during his playing career. And so I think having that experience playing all over the world, that helps too, because the Knights, they have 6 players drafted from Europe in their last 3 draft classes. Among those are Jonas Ronbjerg, Lucas Elvenes, and Ivan Morozov. Gosh, yeah, say those names 10 times fast. But I think, with him being I don't want to say European-based coach. I mean, he spent a lot of time in Europe, so it might be fair to say that. But I think it'll definitely, having that experience and having that background will definitely help in regards to his European players. So yeah. And go ahead, Sean. Yeah.
So yeah, definitely helping them to get settled into a new country, a new culture. Like I always thought it was funny when Vegas was drafting some of their European players on the draft floor. And they're like, so have you ever been to Vegas? They're like, no, I saw it in The Hangover and it looks nice. And I mean, that's something too, where you're plucking a kid from, Sweden, from Russia, and they're coming into literally Vegas. That's a huge culture shock, and it's a completely different country where some of them are probably going to struggle to speak the language. Having someone who's been through that before and can help them transition a little smoother, I think definitely helps as a calming presence so they can focus on hockey.
For sure. And to kind of wrap that Vegas talk up, actually, Vancouver and Vegas, 30 minutes will be puck drop. It's 7:00 Mountain Time. That's going to be old news by that point, but I just want to be diligent in that regard. They haven't started their game yet, but Vegas, very exciting hockey coming up, Game 7. So anyway, moving on, let's just keep it in rapid succession. Let's keep going. Next topic, Mike Vellucci for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. No more. He is now the new assistant coach, just got hired for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's moving on up to the National, moving on up. So yeah, he's going to be charged with taking over the penalty kill portion of the special teams for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He comes to Pittsburgh after coaching the Baby Pens, if we may use that term, for a season. And he came on board after taking the Charlotte Checkers to the Calder Cup final and winning the Calder Cup in 2019. So that begs the question, Sean, who's going to be a good candidate to coach Wilkes-Barre Scranton?
I think that's interesting because I don't think that they're going to go with the heavy development focused direction that other teams have gone with their hires so far. So you've seen a lot of 2 US NTDP coaches, a WHL coach, guys who are used to having very highly talented younger players around them and being able to develop and build them. I don't think the Penguins go in that direction because, their prospect pipeline in terms of blue chip NHLers is Sam Poulin, Nathan Laguerre, maybe Pierre-Olive Joseph and Drew O'Connor, and that's really it. They have a couple of guys who I'd say are underdogs to make the show, like Bjorkqvist and Bellerive, but they're much more in I would say a win now, but they're not looking to be, a big development focus because they just don't have the pieces for that. So I don't expect someone like Mike Havlin from Colorado College or a hot juniors coach to come in. I would expect someone who's either got connections to this team previously or has experience as an AHL coach. I think Chris Taylor, Mike Stothers are likely candidates for Wilkes-Barre to bring in, as is the longtime assistant coach there, J.D. Forrest. I also wouldn't be shocked to see Matt Cullen or Corey Stillman as a candidate just because of their connection to the administration. And if I've learned anything about Jim Rutherford, it's guys that he knows are guys that he likes. I mean, he traded Kasperi Kapanen and then traded for him again. and the same with Connor Sherry. And there's just a lot of guys who float in his circle that seem to just come back. So the fact that Corey Stillman and Matt Cullen are both available and could have been, maybe talked about a little bit in that role, I could see them coming in as an assistant coaching role, but not as head coach.
Yeah. Another interesting thing is that Mark French is actually another name that comes to mind, is because, obviously he coached a number of seasons in the AHL. And as you well know, he did win a championship with the Hershey Bears as well. Mm-hmm. And so, he might be a candidate. I mean, he hasn't even coached for Wheeling, but that hasn't stopped coaching changes happening in Wheeling before. Just a couple seasons ago, they had hired a head coach, and the names are they're failing me right now. But in the off season, he was hired for head coach for 2 months, and then he took another job. So, that could happen with Mark French too. But I mean, at least give the guy a chance to coach Wheeling. I mean, get him out of the doldrums there in the Central Division, the ECHL. But I don't think that's very likely. I mean, again, 0 games with the Nailers, and he's got to, he's going to try and bring the Nailers, reputation, and, obviously get him back in playoff position for 2020-21. But someone in that vein is probably what I'd expect for the Baby Pens to go. And I mean, and Stothers is another great name that you brought up. The fact that, he's now a free agent after a number of seasons in the Los Angeles Kings organization, coaching their AHL affiliates. I mean, yeah, there's a number of candidates, and who knows, they may hire a college coach and just throw everybody off. I mean, stranger things have happened though, right?
Yeah, that is true. There have definitely been a few curveballs in some of the Penguins' moves in the past of coaching hires and stuff. Like, I definitely didn't expect Todd Reirden, but I would be surprised if Mark French got the call up, just because I feel like, yes, he has experience and success at the AHL level, but his 2 recent stops give me enough pause before just handing him that job. I think a year or 2 of good turns in the ECHL is necessary, just to make sure, there were circumstances behind his poor performances of his teams in seasons past, and not he was the problem.
Right.
I would want to make sure I did more due diligence in letting him do that work. But I do want to get moving on here, because there was a trade as Jake Allen is now gone from St. Louis. And apparently the thought process is that Ville Husso is now he's the backup in St. Louis. Cece, what do you think about that?
I think viewing the San Antonio Rampage, viewing them in person when covering an Eagles game last season, I think one word comes to mind, and that is risky. Because Husso's coming off of not just 1, but 2 not good years in net in the AHL. And, that can be excused because there were some injuries in there. And if you want to make the case that he wasn't fully recovered from those, I have time for that argument. That's fine. But Ville Husso, he went from a prospect that 4 years ago seemed like a safe bet to end up in the NHL as that kind of level tiered goalie. Not a Vezina winner or a Hall of Famer, but at least a solid middle, third of the league kind of guy. He had all the tools, but he just needed to develop. And in his first 2 seasons, he looked good in the AHL. Small little developmental areas of concern. He could improve him as you saw him coming along and everything. But he was still probably a pretty safe looking bet from what I've seen. As a future NHL goalie. But the last 2 years, it's just. I think the numbers speak for themselves. I'll have to double check that, but they're not good, Bob. They're not good.
That is very true. And I will at least give a small defense, because I also think that it's risky, but goaltending is voodoo. So who knows? He'll probably win the Vezina next year. But I also want to say, in his defense of those last 2 seasons, the Rampage were capital B bad. And being the starting goalie on a not good team is a very thankless job most of the time, especially when you're in the minors, because a lot of times that's a career killer. They're like, oh, he didn't stop the puck. That's his only job. Who cares what the team in front of him looked like, even though that's a huge factor in how good goaltending is.
Absolutely.
But if you look at the analytics that I track, his goals saved above average, his goalie point shares, they were right around league average, factoring in all the goalies that played at least 5 games in the AHL. Now, the fact that he's, right at league average for both metrics, also, again, that doesn't inspire confidence in me to hand him a backup job in the NHL. But at the same point, for how bad the Rampage were in front of him, that's actually not that terrible given the circumstances that he still managed to pull in average numbers. But
go ahead.
I would be concerned about the workload they give him, especially what Jordan Binnington looked like in the bubble. But if the Blues think that he's ready for backup duty, that's what's going to happen. Good luck to him. Hopefully, for his sake, the Blues keep Pietrangelo.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want a good defense in front of a goalie. That's a given. That's just a crux of how the game of hockey is played. In comparison, he played 3 seasons with San Antonio, but his first season, his rookie season, was with Chicago, split between Chicago and the Missouri Mavericks. Back when they were christened that before they rebranded as Kansas City. But you look at the Chicago numbers, 13-6-0 with a 2.37 goals against average and a 0.92 save percentage. Now, he did replicate that almost nearly the next season in San Antonio. Like you said, first 2 seasons were great, but maybe it was just the pipeline, 6-18-0 in 18-19 and then 16-17-8 in 19-20. I mean, hopefully St. Louis is hoping for, 16-17 Husso, but go ahead. Yeah, you were going to say something.
I think that 18-19 season, he was like an 870 save percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob. But like you said, it's just precarious sometimes. You can't always blame a goaltender when their defense in front of them is suspect at best. So
yeah,
we'll see. Hopefully they'll hang on to Pietrangelo.
Yep. Pietrangelo is going to be a huge factor in that because that dude is a, Norris-ish candidate.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. Yeah. So to keep him and have somebody back up Jordan Binnington, yeah. But anyway, one last thing before we finish up. Did we want to touch on Michael Hutchinson? I mean, Game 7, Avs and Dallas just happened. Hutchinson looked rattled. I'm not going to lie, especially in that third period and then the overtime. His lateral movement was very sporadic. He was just very pressured and panicked, and you could tell. Hutchinson, an AHL level talent coming in second round of the playoffs, 2-0-1, and his goals against average 2.75, 0.91% save percent. Not bad numbers, but just when it came down to the nitty gritty, he just looked kind of lost.
I will say on the overtime winning goal, Kadri blew that assignment. That pass should never have gotten through. You can even see on the replays the defender who's next to Kadri, tapping him, that's your and then he scored. It's he did not play great. Yeah, he definitely looked sporadic. He looked like there was a lot of extra movement going on there, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But the chances that he gave up and the just mountains of traffic in front of him. I mean, I think the one goal that Radulov tipped, him and Pavelski were alone in front of the net on an island. There's only so much you could do as a goaltender in that spot. That was not the best effort from the Avs defense in front of him on some of those goals, clearing out some traffic in front of the net or just making basic zone exits. Dallas continues to surprise me in this playoffs. I picked a Vegas, Colorado for my bracket here, and I believe now I am currently tied in points in our house bracket with my dog, who took Dallas.
Yes, for those who don't know, Sean and his wife and their dog all compete in a house bracket. And how do you do it with the dog again? It's a certain treat, correct?
Yeah, we put out cards, and it has the team each series, so it'll have Philly and the Islanders, and we'll have treats on both of them. Right. And whatever treats he takes first, that's her pick. And then we do the games 4, 5, 6, and 7, whatever treat she picks first. And she's surprisingly not bad at it, which I don't know what to make of. Hockey is very random.
Hockey's very random, and dogs have that sixth sense. They can sense, tornadoes and weather pattern shifts and stuff like that. Maybe it's the same with hockey.
She does watch a lot of it with me, so.
Well, there you go. See? Yeah, she's got a lot of knowledge as well. deeper
Smart girl.
than you know. Yeah, smart girl. Well, hey, we are approaching the 25-minute mark. That's kind of what we were aiming for. And we did a good job. We summed it up. We came in, we divided and conquered, and now we're going to roll out. So thanks for tuning in to episode 88. Bravo. My name is CC Hawkley, and where's my notes? Sorry, Sean.
Hey, go ahead.
As you can see scrolling below, you can follow the In the Corners podcast on Twitter at In the Corners Pod. And you can find me on Twitter at Sinbin Eagles. My Colorado Eagles writing, of course, can be found at thesinbin.net. Sean, tell the folks where they can find your diligent analytics work.
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me at Twitter at Sean O'Brien 81, SeanObrien 81. I'm also on Instagram. I post there occasionally, some graphs that I don't post on Twitter. I am Sean O'Brien _81 there. You can find my stats work on Tableau at bit.ly/SO81-Tableau, TABLEAU. If you guys are enjoying the show, please make sure you subscribe to get episodes like this one in a timely fashion. Also, please rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening to it from. Doing so helps others find this podcast when they search AHL Pod, and it also gives us feedback so that we can improve, so we can give you more of what you're looking for. As Cece said, you can follow us, follow the show on Twitter at In the Corners Pod. I think that's it for me. Cece, what do you got?
Well, just to wrap up, if you like us even more, please consider leaving a tip in our digital tip jar right there on Patreon, patreon.com. That's patreon.com/thesinbinhockey. Your support means a ton to us. We really appreciate it. We love what we do covering minor league hockey, news and analysis, and we appreciate the fans. I mean, that's one of the major reasons why we do this, and we're looking to expand our coverage into even more markets. I think we are closing in on half of the AHL covered by Sinbin correspondents. I think 15 or 16 correspondents, and we're really excited to forge forward and continue covering the next level below the NHL here in the North American minor league professional market. So for Sean O'Brien, once again, my name is CC Hawkley. Until next time, thank you for listening. And as always, keep your stick on the ice.
Thanks for listening to the In the Corners podcast. Stay caught up with the latest minor league hockey news by downloading the Sinbin app for Android and Apple devices.
All sports fans have experienced this, right? Something amazing happens on the ice and you think, man, I wish I'd have been filming. Now with the Sporfy app, you can replace that thought with a click. With just one click of a button, Sporfy captures the past 15 seconds of action so you can instantly replay and share your favorite moments all without having to film. And it's easy too. All you have to do is download the app on iOS or Android devices and experience an all-new way of filming sports highlights.